don't have everything you need to know to complete the homework, but you will by Tuesday. So you should be able to complete it by next Friday very easily. But I also know a few of you will be running around like a chicken with a head cut off. That's the phrase for HEC. So I don't know what works for you. I'm giving you flexibility so that you can adjust. So the I'm too busy option, solutions will be posted on Friday. That means solutions will be there for everyone who turns it in normal grading. You can turn it in by the following Thursday, 324 through 249. Importantly, your score will be 7 or 9. There will be no 10s if you take this option. Okay? So that's the trade-off. You get to decide how much that trade-off matters to you. Is there something special about 324? Does anyone have any sense what 324 is?
Oh, prelim.
Knows. Rich knows. You know? Okay. What do you know?
It's the prelim.
The prelim. The second prelim. Okay? So this is not recommended because you won't actually, if you put it off until that date, you will not have a sense of what you don't know. So just like when you're on sports teams, the first time you try it is not the time you learn it the best. So you do it on Friday, and then you look through the answers, and you talk to TA, and you talk to other people. You need that time to get there. So I do not recommend the second option. You can do the first option. Okay? Some people may also ask, what if I turn it in on Monday? Well, just TA turnaround time and stress. You can always go to an office hours and talk through it with them, especially after looked at the solutions that will be posted online. But if you turn it on Monday, we can't guarantee to get back to you on Thursday. The learning component for you is if you turn it in if you want to get feedback on Monday, go to an office hours on Monday. And we expect to have some expanded office hours by that time. Accordingly, this will be the final homework covering material that will be on the exam. So we will not do Monopoly. We will stop at, let me actually change that to this. 98% will be on stuff up to here. If there's something that I talk about during Monopoly that's related to this, I may put it on, but it's at 2%, okay? So paying attention to courses after we finish Boosting Perfect Composition is still valuable to the exam. But my desire is for you to focus and get solid everything, homeworks 3, 4, and 5. Elasticity, utility maximization, production and costs, and is there something else? More intense supply and demand stuff. We only did a small amount in the first one. Okay. Is there anything I can answer that will eliminate some uncertainty before the 24th? Danny, and then Ronnie, or Danielle.
But the prelim, is it in class yet?
Prelim is in class.
Okay.
Ronnie?
Is the prelim just from is it everything so far, like even what was on the first prelim?
It is everything, including what was on the first prelim, but much more on the stuff since the prelim. If you want a good sense of that, I will follow roughly the convention of previous prelim 1s to prelim 2s. I'm going to ask Professor Chong another question. On some of the prelim 2s you get through Monopoly, will that be covered? No. So we will not do Monopoly except for the possible 1 or 2% of the exam that we've talked about in class, you should know, and is related to stuff we talked about. And then the reason I have it on 324 is because spring break, I think, is the week after that. You all are aware of spring break, not this weekend. I thought it would be cruel to have it at prelim after spring break, so I thought it would be before. Plus, I know you probably, most other faculty have stuff after. So, just like you were probably complaining, why are we having a prelim in week 3? You were very happy in week 5 and 6 that we had a prelim. Danielle?
Discussion that Friday before spring break?
So we do not have discussion that Friday before spring break. The Friday before HEC, we do have discussion. If you didn't mean to ask it, but bring up the Friday before. We're HEC.
That was my next question.
Yeah. So thank you. So Friday 3/18, which is when the normal grading is due, we will have section. But if you are doing HEC, you should, like you have, anytime you have an absence, fill out the I'm missing class form. And if you're doing HEC, just write HEC and count it as 1 point. Okay? So normally if it's some other school activity or something you could do, I say count it as 2 points. But here you just count it as 1 point, and you can read the course policies for how to make up work for that. I don't want you to raise your hands to reveal who's done this, but many of you in this class have missed the class, done what is written in the course policies, given it to Erica, and then your 1 point is made up. Okay. So many of you are doing that, so I know it's written in the documents, so you are able to figure that out. Anything else I can eliminate uncertainty? Okay. You will get through my class. I'm really happy with how you're doing. I'm delighted to be teaching you, positive. It's really great. Okay. And I know it's hard. So because it's hard because it's new, right? I don't like new things. I don't like I don't like how baking soda and baking powder aren't the same things. And to me, they sound the same, but if you're baked, they are not the same thing. So similarly, revenue and profits are different. You think they're similar, but they're different. That's hard. So in your homework, you in a lot of detail mapped out marginal cost, average fixed cost, or average variable cost, and average total cost curves. You plotted them, and then I asked you to find for a point these different things. So just for review, I'm going to do a march around the room, certain different groups of people. So for revenue, it's going to be a box. What box is it? So in the box, there's a height and a width. So what are the height and the width for that? So I'm going to ask Danny and Natalie. Are you going to be here today? Danny? Not here. Not in the bathroom, right? Okay. And Natalie? Also not here. Okay. Great. Then Max. For revenue, what is the height of the box? Revenue.
Price.
Price. Good. And what is the width of the box? I'm sorry, rooms, yes. The quantity of rooms. Good, okay. Lindsay, Lily, and Kaylee. For total cost, what is the height of the box that we would want to use? In words, not in number. What is the height that we would use to find total cost? Or pass. It's okay. I think there might be all your operations knowledge is pushing out some other out. So I will come back to you. You don't get a pass. Alex and John. For total cost, there's going to be a box that gives us total cost. What is the height of that box?
It's the point above the yellow circle. Right there.
And that is John. Okay. And what is the width?
Width is 5.
5, which represents
John.
Right, which is the quantity. Okay. If I change the quantity, do I still look at 5 rooms? No, I would look at different. Okay, good. So now going back to Lindsay, Lily, and Kaylee, what is the number? What 2 numbers would I multiply? You can give me both, one number or both numbers or one number for total cost. What are the 2 numbers? If I want to find the total cost for 5 rooms, what 2 numbers would I multiply? 5 and 43. Excellent. Okay. What if I was thinking about a different price? What if I was thinking about I'm selling 5 rooms for $20 each, and I'm thinking about the total cost? Okay. This is a kind of a trick question. 5 rooms at $20. If I want to find the total cost of selling 5 rooms for $20, so moving that yellow dot somewhere, what 2 numbers would I multiply for total cost? Still 5 times 42 or 42. That number does not change given the difference in price. Just like if you sell a hot dog, if you sell it on sale, the price doesn't go down at the cost of making that hot dog. Okay, there might be a reason you put it on sale, but if there's no reason and nothing else is moving, and I'm just changing the price, ceteris paribus, then to find the cost of 5 rooms, I would still do 42 times 5.
Why don't you add the height of the total variable cost as well as the total fixed cost?
Okay, so for total cost, why don't I take the average total cost? I'm going to rephrase your question. Okay? Why don't I take the average total cost and then add the average variable cost and then add the average fixed cost? I'd be double counting. Because the sum of the variable and fixed gives us the total, whether it's average or total, whether it's just the height of it or the box. So total cost for 5 rooms is 43. Total variable cost, let's go to, I tend to have bad peripheral vision, so I'm going to have good peripheral vision today. Marissa and Morgan. For total variable cost for selling 5 rooms at $40, first I'll ask you a simpler question. Do I multiply 5 times 40 to get the variable cost? No. Okay. So what 2 numbers should I multiply?
5 times 23.
5 times 23, that's okay. And what is the height, Morgan? Not the number, it's 23, but what does the height represent? Or you're not sure what that is? Okay. So let's go back. When we have revenue in the equation, we have price times quantity. And price is the height, and quantity is the width. So if I drew a box at 5 rooms and $40, then this whole thing, the area of that would be revenue. So I asked the question, total variable cost, what is the box? Okay, what is the box that we're looking for? And Marissa told me that it's 23 times 5. 23 tall and 5 wide. Okay? So that's the numerical way. So for revenue, I plugged in 5 and 40. So what would be the general formula for this? What would be the height? Or not sure. 5 and 23 would be the numbers, but what is the analog to P times Q? What times the height? I think maybe I'm asking in a weird way, so I'm going to ask Arun and Danielle.
What would be the variable cost and quantity?
Variable cost times quantity. Do you agree? Okay. Okay. So what is the variable cost here? 23 is the variable cost. So if I go ask, there's a what? Let me just. There's one letter missing there. Good. Going back to that, average to total is always going to be an average times the cubic.
So with what you were saying before, when you were saying like if the price changes, then the total cost, like you would still do the same, except like I'm confused. So like you're saying that if you switch, let's say you're now consider selling 4 rooms at $40, the answer.
Okay. If I sell fewer rooms, then the number is going to change for.
The number does change.
So for different quantities, you're going to have different things that you fill in for these 2 variables.
But for different prices you
But
use.
for different prices, for the same quantity, you would have the same. So for 5 rooms at cheaper or 5 rooms for more expensive, we'd still use 43 and 23.
Okay.
So that's total variable cost. I don't have total fixed cost or average fixed cost as a separate graph on here, but I know there's a difference between these. So on your homework, you were able to get the total cost, and you take out the total variable cost, and that difference is going to be total fixed cost. Okay. And then marginal cost, just to remind you, is not an area. It's just a number that we're reading from the graph, and it represents the additional cost for an additional unit being sold. Additional. Great. So if this is a small firm, do they want to sell 40? If they're able to sell as many rooms as they want for $40, are they going to sell 5 rooms? Are they going to sell 10 rooms? Are they going to sell 14 rooms, assuming this goes further up? So the way we look at it is we compare marginal revenue versus marginal cost. Okay? Versus marginal cost. And if marginal revenue is greater than marginal cost, or equals marginal cost, or marginal revenue is less than marginal cost, those are the 3 possibilities. And this is going to change at a certain Q, at a certain quantity. Because this relationship is going to change depending on where we are. Now the first part of this is we have to see that the marginal revenue is $40. And marginal revenue represents money in, and the other one is money out. And I'm going to ask you to use your imagination rather than me bringing my wallet with a lot of $1 bills and having to count them out. So when we're thinking, do we want to sell that 6th room? It would be as if Justin were the proprietor of this hotel. I give him $40, and then he has to go pay his employees $23 or $22. Does his profit go up when he sells that unit? Meaning, is money in higher than money out? Mm-hmm. Yes. So he does want to sell that unit, but is that where he wants to stop? No. So as long as MR is greater than MC, there's more money in than money out, he wants to continue. So even at this point, he wants to continue and continue and continue. When MR equals MC, then $40 in, $40 out. Justin says, I don't really need to do I don't really need to do that, but just for the sake of ease of talking about it, Justin will sell it. And then if we go beyond here, he's going to have $40 in, and he's going to have to pay $50 out, or $45 out. He doesn't want to do that. So he stops at marginal revenue equals marginal cost. So this is go right, or more. This is go left, or less. Meaning, if you want to profit maximize, you want to sell less. And this is, sometimes I say stop. Okay? Where it matches, that's where you stop. That's the number of rooms you want to do to profit maximize. Right here. Profit. So, for a price of 40, if the choice set for the company is to sell 1 unit, 2 units, 3 units, 4 units, or 0 units, all the way up to whatever the number of capacity for this is, for this purpose of the graph, let's just say it's a 14, then this person would stop at 11. Just make sure, 11. Okay. What if instead the price is 30? So I'm using some what if specifically. What if in the way that I used it in the first day of class? Econ is about all these different what ifs. If the price is 30, we would think about 30 and we would consider different groups of this. Different quantities of this. So just to make sure you have it, I want you to explain where you stop if the price is 30 with the person next to you. Okay? So please talk, keep this like a concept check. I'm taking off the guys so you can read the number. Where do you
This is
stop?
considered selling some guns for 30.
9:30.
So, marginal revenue is marginal cost.
The marginal costs are equal to the marginal revenue at 2, but also again at like 9-ish. That's what it
You should stop at going down
Sorry,
at
I'm trying to move down.
2. So essentially you ignore that point because adding the next unit, so you have to go to the next unit because adding the next unit is then cheaper. So you continue to do that.
Wait, so what are we supposed to consider? Like whether or not we should.
Okay, so you get over like a long
Yeah.
slump, and then everything's up from there until
Oh, okay, so so you'd want to stop with the marginal revenue.
because it's like a negative
marginal cost.
I'm thinking of words. Never mind. It's a negative marginal cost, yeah. Technically.
Wait, Gary, why are
So, okay, so when you're looking at stuff like if your marginal revenue is greater than the marginal cost.
Yeah.
You need to lower fixed costs or go out of business.
Oh, that's if you should sell more rooms.
Yeah, so people can sell more.
That's why you pay off your debts and
Because in
shit,
that
right?
situation, they have more.
That's why you pay off your debts and stuff, right? To get rid to like lower your fixed costs.
More of a margin between how much you're paying and how much you're earning.
Exactly.
So you can still stand
But
to get
sort
more.
of.
Oh, so that says go right more or go right
Go right.
up?
Great. I am hearing
I wrote it down.
But it says go right more here, right?
Okay. I'm hearing lots
Does
of
that say go right more?
So let me see, Michael and Eric. Let's all give Michael and Eric our explanation. Do you want to pass or do you want to do it?
want to do it. Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Well,
Thank you, Swoosh.
at 9 rooms.
9 rooms, good. Why don't you want to sell the 10th room? What is marginal revenue for 10 rooms?
35.
Yeah, what is marginal revenue for 10 rooms?
That's marginal cost.
Good. What is marginal revenue for 10 rooms?
Contract money.
Let's someone help him out that wants to scream the answer. What is marginal revenue for 10 rooms?
30.
30. Because each one you sell gives you an additional 30. So whether you sell 1 room, 2 rooms, or 3 rooms, when I do 1 to 2 rooms, additional 30. 2 to 3 rooms, additional 30. So it's going to be 30, and marginal cost is for the 10th room. Is it 30?
Oh, no, it's 33.
33 or 30?
Right.
Yeah, 30, whatever the blue dot is there. So how does marginal cost, money out, compare with money in? More money out. So we don't want to sell the 10th one because the money in would be 30 and the money out would be 35 or 33.
Do you not want to sell any of them though, if you're not above the average total cost?
Ah! And then the next thing is, what are your profits? So here, you don't have any profits. Your revenue is going to be 30 times 9, and your costs are going to be 32 times 9. So you're going to be losing money. So we're going to get to that somewhat soon. For right now, we're going to get to that today. But for right now, I just want you to realize you're not going to make profits. Okay? The part of the answer is you can't escape not making profits. Okay? Because none of the options give you a profit. So the question is then, what is the smallest loss you can make? So that's the sort of teaser. I see lots of hands, so let's do Duke, Jack, and then someone over here. Maybe it was good. Yeah. Duke?
So the idea is to sell the quantity of rooms where average total cost is better product.
No, it is not. Average total, so Duke's question, which is a great question, is, and it's often something called in operations, you want to go to your lowest per unit total cost. But imagine if the price were $50. The lowest total cost is still here. Let me take off that blinking, it's hypnotizing. So, okay, so if the price were $50, I would want to stop right there, which is 10, right? Sorry, if the price is $50, if I want to try out your idea, if I sell at the lowest average total cost, I would stop at 10. But from what we know, we have more money in, $50, than money out, so we want to keep selling beyond that. So it isn't that you always want to sell at the lowest average total cost.
Okay, then where are you supposed to sell? At
You'll
total?
sell at, if it's $50 or let's say $48, you would stop at 12 units, which is not the lowest. It's a little higher than here. It might help if I draw a different one that makes it a little more obvious. So this is proof that not lowest profit maximization is not always at lowest per unit cost, which is average total cost per unit cost. So suppose I have a Nike swoosh and I have average total cost like this and average variable cost like this and marginal cost. Suppose the price is up here. Price or cost is the axis. Suppose I'm thinking about $80. So I've just kind of extended this graph to $80. $80 says I want to keep on going. If I compare all of these options of how much I want to sell, I want to keep going and I want to stop here. And then if I look at, for that quantity, profit maximization, the quantity for profit maximization when the price is at $80, then is the average total cost the lowest per total? It's not. So in this case, you're going to actually have a situation where your average total cost is higher than your lowest. And one of the key reasons for that is it's not about lowering your per unit total cost the least it can be. It's about how much profit I can make. So if I stopped here, then I would be able to make more money by $80 in and $30 out. $80 in, $30 out. Do I make more money if I sell that one?
Then what?
Than not selling that one.
Yeah.
So if I make more money selling that one, then I want to move one to the right. And then I look, oh, the next unit is going to raise my costs $32, but I'm going to get extra revenue of 80. So $80 in, $32 out. Do I want to sell that one or not sell that one?
Yeah.
I want to sell that one. So I keep on doing that all the way out to here. It's a great question because this is the type of question I love asking because people always like to find the answer at the intersection of two lines. Not always the intersection of two lines. Jack, and then I'll check back with other people.
Is it always a Nike swoosh, or would it never come down in some industries that, let's say, for every 10 units, you have to hire an extra person?
Okay, so we are going to do that. So another thing that can happen is if the costs are constant. So in that case, it would be marginal costs, and then the same marginal cost and the same marginal cost for using your example for the first 10, for the second 10, for the third 10. So that's actually more matches what happens in hospitality. But at some point, you're going to have to hire people, and they're not going to be the best people. So they'll be like your cousin Larry, who, you have to like watch him to make sure he works. And then he's not going to do as many rooms. So then that will mean higher marginal cost. So for the reason of you're hiring less productive workers, or you have to pay them overtime, or your equipment, let's say you're cleaning rooms, you don't have enough vacuum machines, vacuum cleaners, sorry, I don't know called vacuum cleaners. So when you hire more people than vacuum cleaners, they have to start swapping and they lose efficiency that way. So marginal cost tends to have something going up at some point. Good question. I was just thinking about whether I want to talk about that, so you help me talk about it. Okay, Caleb and then Justin.
Well, I was just going to mention that so long as you have fixed costs, you want to be at the point where marginal revenue is equal to marginal costs to mitigate losses.
Yes. If you didn't hear that, we're going to talk about that in about 30 to 40 minutes. So I will repeat it then. William?
You said that in this problem that there's no way that you can make a profit.
There's no way, if the price is $30, which is given by everyone else is selling at $30 and you're not allowed to sell more, because they'll just go to the other company, then you're constrained by being on the $30 line.
Okay. Now, wouldn't you be making money on rooms, say, 2 through 8 or 9?
2 through 9. You're going to be higher than, I'm not sure which point are you referring to that point?
No, I'm saying on $30, like if you sell your third room for $30, are you making money?
You're making more money than if you were doing 2 rooms, but you're not making money in overall.
You have to compare it to total cost. Then.
Yes.
Okay, I was just making sure that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this average total cost, as you know from your homework, Professor Chan, I can't plot 200. Yes, you can't plot 200. I couldn't plot it here either. So somewhere on here is 200, and if you're a restaurant selling 1 or 2 customers, you don't even need to do that. Just fill it over. Okay. Justin, did you have a question?
Yeah, what did you say when you said that for this graph you're not going to make a profit, and then you said, so really we want the smallest loss? Where did you say that was?
The smallest loss is going to be at the profit maximizing point.
So that's $30 and like 8 rooms or something?
$30 and whatever that number is.
Okay, thank you.
9, I think. $30 and 9. Duke?
Okay, why isn't average total cost higher than marginal cost and average variable cost since it's the sum of all the costs?
So you asked a question about marginal cost, average total cost, and average variable cost. And you said, why isn't, let me first write, why isn't marginal cost greater than average total cost and greater than average variable cost?
Well, why would total cost be the highest?
Oh, sorry. Why isn't average total cost the highest? Okay. Meaning higher than marginal cost, higher than average variable cost, etc. That's because marginal cost is different than average. Average is always talking about the total cost divided by quantity. Marginal is the additional cost of the next unit. So if your average, going back to the height of the classroom, if the average height in the classroom is 5'6", and I invite Shaquille O'Neal over, who's I think 6'11", then then the height's going to go up. Okay? If I add Shaquille O'Neal, he's the marginal. He's the one we're adding, and he can be taller than the average.
So average total cost is average cost per room.
Average cost per room, yes. And marginal cost is not average cost per room plus something. It's the cost of this many units. So the marginal cost at 12 is 45 or 46. So that tells me to make the 12th room, I need to increase my cost by 46. It doesn't tell, so it compares the total cost of 40. In fact, you could do it graphically. You just have to be careful because you have to use real numbers. I could take the total cost for 11 and take the total cost for 12 and figure out what the difference in the two areas is. That gives me the marginal cost.
I'm just confused conceptually why marginal cost intersects variable cost and total cost at the minimum.
So Felipe's question was, he's confused about why it intersects these at the minimum. Because the marginal is the adding a person. So if I'm adding a person and the marginal is less than the average is going to start dropping. And then when I add someone who's the same height, it's going to be flat. And then when I add someone who's taller than the average, then it's going to go up. So when a curve goes down, it's flat and then goes up. The flat is the minimum, and the flat is where marginal cost and average will be the same. To the right, you're adding people. To the left, you're taking people out. Adding taller people. To the left, you're adding shorter people. So the people are shorter than the average both here and here. It doesn't have to do with the slope of the marginal cost, just positionally how it relates to the other one. How it relates to the other one. Toto, did you have one?
Yeah, so based on that graph, if you sold 9 rooms at $30 each, you're still meeting the marginal cost, meeting the marginal cost, but you're still losing money because it's lower than the average total cost.
Yes, absolutely correct. So to repeat again, your marginal revenue is going to equal marginal cost here. That's where you should stop. You don't want to sell the 10th, 11th, 12th room. But because average total cost is higher than your revenue or your price, then you're going to be at a loss.
So technically, if you sold any other room at $30, you're not making any money.
You never make a profit.
Okay.
If your company can only every single day is selling at $30, you should eventually go out of business.
Okay.
But what happens is some days are good days, some days are bad days. So Valentine's Day you can charge $100 for bad appetizers and the champagne. But on a normal day you can't even charge $20 sometimes. So some days you're going to operate at a loss. Some days you're going to operate getting a lot of profit. Our industries in hospitality are highly, highly seasonal. Any other questions on this? We're going to do this a lot more, so if there are questions, you will have more opportunities to ask those questions. So we want to stop there. So how we are using this is a very clear framework. The costs come not just because I tell you them, they come from how many people you need to hire and what materials you need to use and other costs, inputs to your process. What we've done then is make these curves. When we take the supply curve, the definition of the supply curve, and this is taken directly from lecture 3 or 4, supply is the willingness and ability of sellers to produce and offer to sell different quantities of a good or service at different prices during a specific time. So I wrote in those 2 lectures long ago, we march up and down in prices, we hold everything else constant, and how to think about is price quantity pairs. So what we just did, to rephrase this, if the output price is 40, you can sell as many as you want to, how many do you want to sell as the seller? If the output price is 30, how many would you want to sell as the seller? So we just got the supply curve from, and see how it came from directly from those costs. So $40, we took 11 rooms, $30, 9 rooms. If I did $50, we'd have a different number. If we did $80, we'd have an even higher number. That comes from marginal revenue equals marginal cost, profit maximization. It's not because the companies took econ and want to follow all the rules. They want to make as much profit as possible, and following econ is the way to get to the most profit possible, whether they know it or not. You get the knowledge of the general knowledge, so you don't get trapped with all these shortcuts of always sell more on Saturday than on Friday or things like that. Those rules don't always apply. Marginal revenue equals marginal cost always applies if you're trying to maximize profit.
How do companies find like the marginal cost of each unit? Like, is it just like common sense? Like, okay, if we sell one more room, we're going to need to build a new building, obviously. Or is it like a number?
It's a lot of financial accounting, and it depends on the time frame. So sometimes your time frame is going to allow a lot of adjustments. Like if you're starboard and planning global expansion to Asia, you can think 4 or 5 years ahead, and you're thinking about the cost of each hotel in a very broad sense of all the things you need to put in. If the hotel's already built and you're the GM and you need to figure out how to make the most profit possible in the next 3 months so you don't get fired because you're underperforming and you're brought in to do that. If you're that GM doing that, then you don't have a lot of things you can maneuver. You just kind of have, these are the costs. You do have the choice in operations. You can think, maybe I'll buy smaller bars of soap or bigger bars of soap, or maybe I'll ask my employees to do a worse job in cleaning but do more rooms. So
that'll make it so that your marginal cost is less.
Well, yeah, so smaller soap sizes would be less. Cleaning the rooms less well would be less. Cleaning the rooms better would be more. And it would change the table.
You would stop at a different number then?
And you'd stop at a different number. You're asking really great questions. In fact, it is a concept check question. So if we had, just to go back, if we had wages and labor, you could change the number of labor hours if you change the quality of the good. But also changing the quality of the good may change the demand side as well. So making shoddier rooms is probably cheaper, but making shoddier rooms probably shifts demands to the left. Fewer rooms at the same. We did that. And concept check to really see if it's helpful.
back out again with the questions.
So that's just review. Table of inputs, convert them to costs, calculate all the things, and make the curves like you did on your homework. You'll get a Nike swoosh graph or something like that. And profit maximization is given a price, you find where marginal revenue equals marginal cost. So concept check 1 and 2, and then I have a 3, which is coming up. Okay? So is marginal cost always constant across different Q? That's the first one. Don't give me an answer yet. And suppose marginal revenue, and this is the harder one that relates to Will's question. Suppose marginal revenue equals marginal cost initially, and you're producing at the Q star that is profit maximizing. I'll draw that for you. Marginal cost. And I'm not going to draw the other curves because all I need to do is draw marginal revenue, which is equal to the price, which is a fixed price. Okay. So Q star here is the profit maximizing quantity. There's an increase in the price of an input, which increases the marginal cost. Nothing else changes. At Q star, what is the new relationship between marginal revenue and marginal cost? And should you produce more or less? Okay, I'll let you think through that with your partner. So the one thing, marginal cost doesn't change when you change the price, but here, it's not just a change of price. We said the price of an input, not the price of the output, the price of the input. So think that there's a labor dispute and you have to pay them double now. How is the marginal cost curve going to change? So go ahead, talk in your groups. I'm going to leave the room so you start talking.
Well, no, marginal cost would not be the same as marginal, would not always be price or cost of the
That's the next one.
Yeah, because
But then if
there might be another associated cost. So, I mean, I think it's self-explanatory. If you know marginal cost.
Price of
Right. And we know what the graph looks like. So you know all the different quantities.
at the same, it would be your market revenue.
Suppose marginal revenue is marginal cost.
Yeah.
You're producing quantity
Sorry, need to read. Okay, you woke me up, so I'm gonna wake you up.
there's an increase in the price of the
You did me a solid.
marginal cost.
But I'm so alert right now. I don't know why. I'm
So
really
that's
happy
it.
and I don't know
So
why.
MR is the same across. MC increases.
I was on
So then that would mean
I would do.
that this
Right, you can see. That's what I like.
is less than
Yeah,
this.
that's good. I just like
So it's
tell
less.
and engineering is like,
So it'd be, yeah.
whoa, they're different in the spectrum.
A lot of people are doing information science. I'm debating whether to do information science
Right.
or
And should you produce more or less?
Well, first, what's
if I like culinary next semester,
Isn't that the
or if I
relationship?
get it
It's
next
less than
semester,
MC.
then I'll
oh
probably
yeah,
change
there's
my
with
career
it.
a
And then
bit,
should you produce more or less?
add it to my...
I'm really excited for culinary class. I miss cooking.
And then marginal cost is going up.
I like fell
Oh,
asleep
then you're
during
gonna lose
lectures.
money.
And this one I'm passing it to.
Gabby, look at this. That's
Are
right.
you already working on your homework today?
How if I draw something like
Nice.
this?
A plus, A plus, A plus. You're a hard worker, friend.
Does it help if I draw something like that and use my magic vertical powers? I need to make a better magic group,
You know, I asked her extra ranch.
right?
Oh, you did? How did you
Yeah, it was the first time. It worked out. It worked out.
I want to focus on.
Yes, I know. You know, I like when they like ask, like, would you like more? I don't know. I gotta give them. Exactly. One day I'll go.
the stress of asking for
Yeah.
I just had to find
I
something
think
in it.
we've got it,
It
so
just needs to
I'm going to
get
give you the
organized.
answer rather than trying to rope it out of you. So at Q star, when marginal cost increases, the thing you need to do, if you're visual and you like to think about, the marginal cost is going to be higher, so you'll have a higher curve at that quantity. The cost, before, you're still hiring an extra 5 people to do that room, but now each person you're hiring is more expensive. So that's going to raise the marginal cost. So the marginal cost is going to be higher. Before they were equal, and now it's going to be higher. Okay? And then for the second one, should you produce more or less? Well, I can't use my magic eraser to erase this, but I'll do that. Where is the new negative squish intersecting with marginal revenue? To the left or to the right? To the left. Okay. Yes, Brett?
So for this question on S,
Uh-huh.
I would just say the marginal cost curve is steeper, would that suffice or no?
Steeper would suffice, but it needs to be at that quantity. It's going to be higher. So steeper is not quite the thing that we care about here, because it's higher. The reason why steeper isn't good is what if I said I change your marginal cost curve to be from this to this. Do I want to change how many units I sell? No, because they're so. That they intersect somewhere else is what's visually. Okay, anything else? Okay, great. Next question. Suppose for a hotel, variable costs are fixed at $30 per room and fixed costs are $100. Draw average variable cost, marginal cost, average total cost for Q equals 1, 2, and 3. I think for half of you this is going to be obvious given that you did it last Friday. Half of you maybe in operations prelim mode, so a little harder. I will give you a 30-second head start and then I will start doing this. My big hint is make a table. Make a table. First, are there any questions on what I mean by variable costs are fixed at $30 per room? I know that's very weird. I say variable cost fixed at $30. So if you don't like the word fixed there, think of it as a constant. $30 for the first room, $30 for the second, $30 for the third.
Bless you. Thank you. Oh, average. We will use this a lot, so you can get comfortable. Things you should take away from this. Whenever marginal cost is constant, each room I'm adding is the same cost, so the average variable cost is going to also be that same number. So if constant, same. And I will write it just in case. If not constant, not same. And then fixed costs are always going to be the same. And average fixed cost is going to be the same number divided by larger and larger numbers. So we draw this, and we draw for average variable costs for 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3, 30, 30, 30. And then the average total cost would be 130, and then the other numbers. And then start asymptotic. Whoa, that's blurry. So that's average variable cost. That's average total cost. Where's marginal cost? It would be right on the same thing. Marginal cost. I love this because if you understand what's going on, you're not confused. You say, oh, marginal cost is just the same as average cost. When you just memorize things and think, oh, I need 3 lines, and you're going to think, oh, there is no third line, so it's 0. Those are easy to grade, but make my heart sad. Okay, so please don't do that. So now we get to go, now that we understand the cost for a company, and we're not going to dive deep into the cost of the company anymore, we're just going to take different curves and ideas, either with constant marginal cost or Nike swoosh. For the next couple lectures, we have perfect competition. Before I go any further, perfect competition is covered excellently in all the books. I'm going to use some exhibits from Arnold. Similar exhibits are in the OpenStax textbook, which I think is slightly better. And also free, so that's good. So if you're in the category today, if I can't follow along or it's shaky, so I'll say that again. If you are shaky, go read the book. Okay? It'll be the socially most happy way you can figure out what you need to know. I don't think the book will get you 100% there, but it'll get you to figure out what is shaky. Because you'll read 3 sentences and be like, I'm not sure what that means. Read it again, and if it doesn't make sense, circle it or do something equivalent and then talk to it. Okay. So we have 4 market structures that we're going to cover in class. We're going to start with perfect competition, which is going to have a lot of sellers. These other ones you don't even need to write down because I just show this every time we cover a new market structure. But what you need to remember right now is perfect competition is a structure, is one of 4 different possible structures. I don't think I'll ask you about the other ones. So today's perfect competition. There are 4 key assumptions to perfect competition. None of them are realistic in most industries, but they're very useful because you think of a spectrum between perfect competition and the other things. So the first one, there are many sellers and many buyers, none of which is large in relation to the total sales or purchases. So many sellers and many buyers. The opposite of this is one seller or one buyer. Or one seller, many buyers, or one buyer, many sellers. Right? If I'm one buyer and a bunch of tomato farms are trying to sell to me, I like that because I can bargain them down in what I have to pay them. With perfect competition, you can't bargain them down as much because they go to another seller or another buyer. Second one, each firm produces and sells a homogeneous product. Homogeneous is like homogeneous milk, right? They've kind of made it so that every piece of the milk is the same as other pieces of milk. Homogeneous means the same. The next one, so implicit in this is there are no quality differences. Not true in your industries. Going to Burger King is very different than going to Lasante's. Okay? So next one, buyers and sellers have all the relevant information about prices, quality, and sources of supply, and so forth. So this is also not realistic because usually we don't have all the information. If I want to figure out what all the different jeans that I could buy at the mall are, I have to go to every store in the mall and try them on. So that would violate this assumption because I don't have that information for free. I have to go collect that. So when I go shopping for jeans, I usually buy the first jeans that fit and I like. Okay? Second, firms have easy entry and exit. This means that there isn't a law saying we can't open another hot dog factory or drive another cab. Which is not true. In New York City, you can't drive a cab unless you have a medallion or your Uber. So, William.
I'm just a little confused with like all of the quality is the same, but then it says it has all the relevant information on quality. That means they just know that the quality is the same for all.
So what I mean by that is if we have all hotels of high quality and then we think everyone changes their quality lower, then so it's going to be homogeneous. In each what if it's going to be homogeneous, but maybe the quality differs across them. You can also have situations where everyone knows the quality, but there's a lot of different kinds of quality. So that's why I put this as 2 separate assumptions. So later when we do something monopolistic competition, we know what the quality of the different restaurants are, especially if you have an operations to them. But you don't. Each firm doesn't have to sell the same quality, but everyone might know what a La Quinta Inn is versus a Hampton Inn versus a Motel 6 versus a Ritz-Carlton. So I've given you some examples of where these are violated and where these are satisfied. So I'm going to just let you read those for 30 seconds or so and tell me if there's any that don't make sense to you. and then I will tell you. Or if you have something that you think makes a better example, I'd love to hear it. Some of these may not make sense because, like, I don't know, you never lived in Texas or driven through Texas development. Does anyone have any questions on this or want to give a better example or an exception or debate this? I love debate. You will not hurt my ego, and I will never take out on your grade that you disagree with. Nick, and then Stephanie, and then Okay, so Texas development, if you want to open up and do oil drilling in your backyard at your house, you can essentially do that with very little regulation. Anyone from Texas here? So, have you driven and you've seen people's backyards just one oil rig just going? Yeah. So that is what Texas. If you want to open up a mall, you just open up a mall. In California, you have to do environmental regulation and environmental impact report and zoning and all that. Texas is known for not having much zoning. Stephanie?
I was just going to ask for a bit more clarification on the firms have easy entry and exit and why it's significant in this case. Like how it helps perfect competition. Is it supposed to make it easy for competition to enter?
So suppose we have cabs in New York before Uber, and it's supposed to make it easy for people to enter and exit. If you have we often think of cabs as just a kind of fixed amount of cabs. I'm doing this because supply is inelastic of cabs. So if you don't have easy entry or exit, if it's raining, for example, or if the population doubles, then you would think you need more cabs. But New York might have a law that helps the cabbies say, we're not going to let more cabs come in. So then in that case, if demand goes up and supply is constrained, you'll have excess demand, upward pressure on prices, and draw that. Supply, demand, everything's good here. This is the number of cabs. Suppose demand shifts outward, and they don't allow prices to change. So this is the P star and Q star. They don't allow prices to change. There's going to be excess demand. Quantity demanded, quantity supplied. Excess demand. So how do we usually deal with excess demand? We either raise the price, which cabbies, it's set by the government in this case, so they don't really raise the price so much. Or the other thing is we let there be entry so that more people can start driving. But if we don't let that happen, then we have excess demand and we can't have that situation. Does that answer your question?
I think so.
Or is there a slightly different question?
No, I think you answered it fairly well. It's like 4 is kind of similar to 1 where both pertain to the amount of possible vendors.
Yeah. Well, it's not just, you can have a lot of vendors but no entry and exit, just like cabs. If you have a fixed amount of medallions, you can't start printing out more medallions. I mean, you can as the government, but the government may choose not to for political reasons.
Okay, so 4 just prevents demand from exceeding supply.
Yes.
Okay. Great.
That's the main thing. And they also have something related to profit and entry that is going to be towards the end of, it's going to be next class.
I was just going to ask about Texas development.
Okay, great. Okay, we're good on here. Okay. You can ask again next lecture. You can send an anonymous, can you do that again? So this is the important thing about perfect competition. When we have these situations where there are a lot of sellers, everyone knows what's going on, the product is homogeneous, and we're not using firms having easy entry or exit yet. We'll use that later. The key thing is the market sets the price. We always think that company sets the price because the company gets to choose what price they sell it at. They can always sell at more. But what actually happens is the market sets the price. The firm becomes, the vocab term is a price taker.
They have to take the price that the market sets. So whatever is market equilibrium price, that price ends up being the price that the company has to sell at. And then when we think of in the market, there's 500,000 units being sold at this market equilibrium. For a single firm, they're not selling all 500,000. They're just thinking about how much they can sell. And in this case, when they charge $5, they could sell 1 unit, 2 units, 3 units, 4 units, 5 units. They could actually possibly sell up to all 500,000 units, but we don't really draw it that far. Well, what we need to think about is that they're locked into charging $5. Okay? It can sell as many units as it wants at the market determined price. So there are a couple of situations that make this even more clear and fit the people who have story-based learning. So they like to think about stories. Well, before I move forward, concept check. If the firm sets its price at, so this is first just a note that the difference in quantity, single firm versus multiple firms, or the market. Concept check. If the firm sets its price at $1 more than the market price, how much of the firm's quantity is going to be demanded? Think about that for a second, okay? I know some of you have the answer, but there's a better way to show this. So you have the answer there, but let me just show you this way. What if you were going to buy whatever these nice red buildings are selling? So Red Hots, okay, with hot dogs. And they're $5 at all of these stores, and you choose the price at $6. Every quality is the same, many buyers and sellers. How many people are going to go to this one? 0. Okay? So that's the first part. Even though we draw this demand, and this is from the firm's perspective, firm demand, price taker. This is from the firm's perspective. We draw this. An important thing that people in AIM or people at Yale will forget is that for prices higher than P star or P star equilibrium, the quantity is going to be 0. Okay? Quantity is going to be 0. Okay? Yes, Will?
Under that same assumption, considering the fact that it's like a perfect, or what is the perfect competition?
Yeah.
If you lowered it $1, would you sell 500,000?
Okay. What if you price lower? Thank you, Will. Then you could, if everyone else is trying to sell at 5 and you're selling at 4, you're going to go get everyone who wants to buy it for $4. They're going to all go to you. So, So yeah, you'd be essentially 500,000 or whatever close to 500,000, the whole market.
Yeah.
And it won't make sense for you to sell at $4 because you don't want to sell 500,000 units. $4.50, you still don't want to sell 500,000 units. Okay? You don't have to. You can charge $4.50 and you can sell as many as you want. But you can charge $4.75 and still sell as many as you want. So it's not saying it's illegal to charge $4. It just doesn't make sense. If you can sell as many as you want at $4.50, why don't you charge $4.50? You can charge $4.79, $4.80, $4.99. Why don't you charge $4.99? And finally, at $5, you're still able to sell as many as you want. So the kind of invisible part of the graph is at prices lower than P star equilibrium, you'll get the whole market, which is too much, too big. So that's what happens if you price lower. If you price the same, you still get to sell as many units as you want. You can choose to sell 1 and close up your store, or you can choose to sell 100 and then close your store, or you can choose any number. Yeah, Will?
Conceptually, I just don't understand it. Like, if at $5 you can sell as many as you want, but if you make it $4.99, you're going to sell. Why wouldn't you make it $4.99?
Yeah, at $5, you're trying to make a distinction between you can sell and you're going to sell. Let me just say, at $5, you're going to sell as many as you want.
Oh.
You can actually sell as many as you want. And the hint here, okay, before we get to this one, if you're selling at $5, the market's going to sell 500,000. Each firm is going to decide to sell as many as it wants to, and there's not going to be any excess. So every firm is going to sell as much as it wants to supply. So the next step is every firm is going to be doing MR equals MC, and the quantities of each firm adding up will just equal the market.
So that was Will's question. What if we have a situation and everyone raises their price? Okay, if everyone raises their price, what do you think is going to happen? Will's got it, but I want to have someone else. So what's going to happen? What happened in week 3 and 4? Yeah, Jack?
Some people are going to substitute to a lower price good.
Okay, some people are going to compared to $5, some people are going to substitute a lower price good. It's going to drive in more companies that are going to want to produce. And then what situation is going to be at $9? It starts with an E. Yeah, Gabby?
An excess of supply.
You have the excess supply, which then puts downward pressure on the price. So the situation where everyone's selling at 9 isn't going to be a situation that happens either because of excess supply. This is going to put downward pressure on the price until it gets to this point. So by the logic of economics and by ruling out every situation, perfect competition says every firm is going to sell magically at the same price because all the other options don't make sense. One way to say, if you charge at 9 and everyone charges at 9, you're not selling as many as you'd like to sell at $9. So that's why this is what's happening. This then tells us all the options. As a firm, we get to then choose, if it's $5, I'm a price taker, $5, do I want to sell 0 units, 1 unit, 2 units, 3 units, all the way to 100 or beyond? So the firm profit maximizes, which is this MR equals MC condition. So what is MR? It's again, the extra revenue for an extra unit of output. So 1 unit at $5 is $5. 2 units at $5 is $10 or 5 more. If I sell another unit, $5 more, $5 more, $5 more. So by the definition of marginal revenue, which is the additional revenue for each unit, marginal revenue is going to again equal the price. This price is what comes from the market. And this curve then, firm demand, which is a price taker, this then becomes marginal revenue for the firm. I don't always write for the firm, but I'm just going to re-emphasize the firm. Then we overlay the marginal costs and then get the profit maximization point for each firm, meaning what that firm wants to sell. So in this picture, it's going to be MR equals 5. So going back to what we talked about at length, if the price were 40, we would go further out all the way to there. And in fact, if we did what-ifs for different prices, this gets to be the supply curve. The warning is we've used price equals marginal revenue and marginal revenue equals marginal cost. And all of you want to just skip a step and go straight to price equals marginal cost. It's tempting to do this, but resist the urge. Not only because if you just skip that step, all you're going to do is memorize and you're going to forget everything and I'm going to ask questions in ways where you won't get the points. But secondly, later on when we do other markets, price does not equal MR. So do not memorize price equals MC. Just remember price equals MR from price taker and the horizontal demand curve, firm demand curve, and then MR equals MC profit maximization. Have them be 2 separate steps. So now we have 3 situations. The 3 situations are going to be given by, we'll have a marginal cost curve. Either the marginal revenue, the firm demand, can be higher than both of the other curves where it intersects. It can be lower than both of the other curves, or it can be in the middle of both curves. And we're going to talk about those 3 situations with profit and answer the question that Mike wanted to ask. This is Exhibit 4 in Arnold, and Arnold goes through it very quickly. So a pre-concept check, I've never done a pre-concept check before. I want to make sure we're all on the same page. If quantity is 0, is total cost 0? Okay? Is it always yes, sometimes no, or always no?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Talk to the person next to you.
Quantity is 0. Total cost.
I think sometimes
If you don't have any fixed costs,
because it
you're
depends,
good.
like let's say you have a hot dog stand and you don't sell any hot dogs, it still costs you
I
to
pinched
have a
my
hot
leg
dog
on the
stand.
desk.
Base doesn't that mean your quantity's 1?
No, I mean like it still costs you money to have like a hot dog stand, even if you don't sell it.
So that's like fixed cost and variable cost?
Yeah, so you would
Bring
still
you back together. I'm hearing a little bit
total
of
cost
maybe
would
yes,
be
maybe
part of
okay.
So let's have a story. If you go to a restaurant and that restaurant has no customers, do they get to say, oh, we don't have any customers, we don't have to pay anyone? No. Okay? So in that case, it's not going to be zero. You still have your fixed costs. If you have any fixed costs, you still have to pay them even if you don't sell anything. Okay? In what case would this be yes then? Yosef?
Would it be yes if there's like a product that you're selling is not a service, it's like a service and not like a physical product that you can do yourself? You don't have to like pay someone to do it?
So if there are no fixed costs, like most services have fixed costs, if there are no fixed costs, absolutely correct. So there will be no total, costs, no total cost if you don't sell anything. So if you're a drop shipper, you can Google what drop ship is if you don't know what it is, but if you're a drop shipper and it's just virtual, and you get an order and then you give it to someone else, then if you don't get any orders, you don't have to do anything. So no costs. Yeah. Jack?
Didn't last time we said that there's no such thing as no cost, it's still implicit cost?
Yes. So there's no such thing as zero cost if there's still implicit costs. So in Ilse's example, if you have implicit costs, like if it's only your time is still really worth something. So you could make a case for it's always no. But if I give you an example, like in the dropship example, where you set everything up, everything is a sunk cost in the past, and you're just taking orders from people and forwarding, like there's a company called Thumbtack, I have a friend who works there. They just get orders for painters, and then they give those leads to the painters. So they're just lead generation. They have no costs once they set it up. So in that case, after the setup, there really is no cost. Now you could also say they have to run servers and